Okay, so this is a recording of the lines 549 all the way to the end of what we're responsible for in Book 1 of the Aeneid, 578. And remember, what is happening here is that Ilioneus, the representative of the 12 ships that Aeneas had not known what had happened to, is obviously asking for help from Dido and the Carthaginians. So, Sunt, he goes on to say, there are both cities in Sicilian regions and weapons, and famous Acestes from Trojan blood. A subjunctive, when it is the main verb of the clause, translates let the subject verb. And this licet is an impersonal verb. That would be let it be allowed. Licet, if it were not liceat, but licet would be it is allowed. So, let it be allowed to dock. Subducere in the context of sailing is going to be to dock. Our fleet, the class M, the one having been shaken quasatam by the winds. And to make suitable, apt, the beams, this is of course wooden beams for the ships, from the forests, and to draw out the oars, stringo stringere, to draw. And so essentially they're asking for permission, one, to park their ships there, and two, to go out in the forests and use those natural resources to repair the ships and make new oars. So he goes on to continue, si datur, if it is granted, do dare dedidatus. So if it is granted to stretch tende to Italy with friends, ablative absolute, and our king having been recovered, having been received, so that, a purpose clause, we, the happy ones, may seek Peto Petre, Italy, and Latium. But if, that's what sin means, safety having been taken away, we would have the word consumo, consumere, consumta, to consume, but here obsumo, same sort of an idea. But if you don't want to say but if safety having been taken away, and this is salus salutis, you can obviously add a helping verb to it to create a paraphrastic and imply has been taken away. And the sea of Libya holds you in the vocative case, O best father, genitive of the Teucrians, and the hope of Iulus, genitive, does now not, nec, stand. In other words, that he is a dead person and you can't consider him to be the hope of the future. But at least, that's what saltem means. Again, a subjunctive. Peto petere. We fear a giant liar. Third conjugation. Let us seek the straits of Sicily, at least, and the prepared seats. They were told when they left from Sicily by Acestes that they were welcome back. And the king Acestes. Those prepared seats, unde, from where we, having been carried, vehere vexi vectus, to this place. And so he says, all we're looking is to get our ships in a capability of A, if all of our guys are good to go, we're going to Italy and Latium, or if all of our guys are not good to go, we're going to go back to where we were originally, before we came here, which was Sicily. So, Ilioneus, with such things. By that, it is going to be Ilioneus speaks with such words. It's an ablative plural from talis, talis, tale. And all the Dardanians, remember another word for the Trojans, they together at the same time, fremibat, bellowed, were bellowing, fremo, fremere, with their mouth. And then Dido's response, which is incredibly important as to what it is she's going to say. Then, briefly, Dido. Dido, having been sent down with respect to her face. This is the Greek accusative of respect. I like to call it the accusative of the body part because it's often a body part in which this is passive in its look, perfect passive participle, but it's mediopassive, and indeed has that Greek accusative of respect. So having been sent down with respect to her face, she speaks for fari, fatasum forth. Loosen, solvo solvere, your fear from your heart, O Teucrians. and hide away, put away, seclude your concerns, your cares. The reisdura, the harsh situation, and the newness, noitas. Remember these tas, tatus nouns. The tas is the nominative. And the newness of the kingdom, compel, force, kogo, kogere, koegi, coactus, me. And then the word that is going to be the next infinitive, moliri. To build up, molior, moliri, which of course is a deponent verb. And you can see it right there, moliri. To build up such things. Talibus, that we saw up here, was of course an ablative plural. Here it is accusative plural and neuter, such, and then we substantize it, things. And to watch over the borders widely with a guard. Tueri comes from the deponent verb, tueor, tueri, and then of course tutus sum, tueor, to watch over. So she says, who, and this is subjunctive. Now when a subjunctive asks a question directly, you need to translate it with should, because it is what we know of as a deliberative subjunctive. So who should not know the Aenean type, the Aeneas race? Who should not know the city of Troy, and the virtues, and the men, or the fires of so great a war? She then goes on to say, non obtusa adeo, gestamus poini, the mus we, the poini, the Phoenicians. They are Carthaginians, but they were from Phoenicia, so they are often called the Phoenicians, or the Tyrians from the city Tyre, within the region of Phoenicia. So, we, the Phoenicians, do not wage, and this is, of course, here, gestare, a frequentative verb from gerere, gesigestus, so it has that frequentative feel to it, wage, or wear. So you could have wear if you would like. So we, the Phoenicians, do not wear. Adeo is a word that means so much or so great. So blunt hearts. In other words, to have a blunt heart is going to be able to mean that you are uncaring or unfeeling. And nor does the sun, having been turned away, join its horses from the Tyrian city. So let me do it again. So, we, the Venetians, do not wear so much dull hearts, nor does the sun, having been turned away so much, that's what ta means, having been turned away so, does it yoke its horses from the Tyrian city. And to yoke your horses means to obviously tie them together and drive them, as it were. What it is she is saying here is that we are all under the same sun. The sun that shines on Carthage is the same sun that shines on Trojan. And of course I'm going to help you, because we are both a part of humanity. And so therefore we are going to act as a part of that human race under the same sun. They are not so far apart, not turned away so much does it yoke the horses from the Tyrian city. Well, or seo siwe, it's going to be whether or. So whether, and of course you would have here the idea of giving options, and she's going to give options, because remember that the options that were offered up by Ilioneus was option A, go on to Italy, option B, go on back to Sicily. He did not propose an option of staying there, and that's the one she is going to add. So whether y'all opt, want, select, to choose. So whether y'all opt for Great Hesperia and the Saturnian fields, or whether y'all opt for the borders of Eryx, another word for Sicily, and the King of Acestes. Option A, going on to Italy. Option B, she then says, I will help. Uo iuare. Well, first she does the dimitam. I'm so sorry. I will send, implied, wos, y'all. Tutos means safe and sound, with help. And I will help y'all with resources. Ops, opus, rich or resource. Whereas opposed to opus, operis, which is of course a work. Nevertheless, and here it's implied, within here you have the kind of word whether or, like if, and it's the same thing here. And if implied, y'all want to sit down, to settle with me equally. That's an incredibly important word here. In ablative these kingdoms, The city which I stand up like a statue, it is y'all's. Park your ships. The kind of an idea of me casa e su casa. My house is your house. You are welcome to be here with me. And the next sentence is the most important, I think, in her obvious character and the way in which, obviously, she is receiving them. She says, singularly, Trojan and Tyrian will, because this is future agere, third conjugation with an E, will be driven, will be done, will be dealt with, I think is the best sense here in English, will be dealt with by me, another dative of agent, even though datives are usually 2 or 4, but when it's the agent, the doer of the passive action, we say by, will be dealt with by me, nullo discrimine, with no difference. So it is not a situation where they will become second-class citizens. For Dido, they will be considered equal. And would that, utinam, an impossible wish, which is why we have here a subjunctive. Now, the word fore is really a form of futurum esse. But here I'll make it nominative masculine because our subject is the rex masculine king. So fore is futurus esse. And if I were to then take this future active infinitive and add to it a T, then I've made a subjunctive. Anytime you put an ending on an infinitive, you have made a subjunctive. And so that is what we have here. So here, oh, would that the king Aeneas himself ad foret, it means to be, would that he be ad at this place. But please remember, fore is futurus esse, and we're just putting an ending on it to make an infinitive. That king himself, having been struck compello compellere by the same notice wind. And indeed, and then we have to go to the next line for the conclusion. We only have 1 or 2 more lines. And there it is, dimittam, the future of middo midere send. So she says, and indeed, quidem, I will send dimittam, because remember, I will send on the dimittam a long E of a third conjugation, middo midere, plus an M equals an AM. I will send certain guys. This means like reliable guys, like the special forces of her military presence, through the shores, per litora, and I will order those certain guys to scan the extremes, the borders of Libya, if he, having been thrown out in any forests, the reason why it is any is because remember, si, nisi, numen, ne, all the alis fall away. So it's really aliquibus. If, having been thrown out in any forest or any cities, if he wanders. And so in that way she's saying, don't worry, if he's out there, we're going to find him, and I'm going to help you find him. And so that ends our lines that we are responsible for in Book 1 of the Aeneid.